Okay, for today, we'll talk about how we can improve the initial principles. So here, I will be discussing characteristics of a good principle. There are not that many, but they can be very difficult to implement in practice. And then we'll try to explain how to improve the quality of principles and the other attributes of the principles, rational, the implications, the obstacles. And the reason why you want to have effective principles is because that will determine the action to be taken, right? So if your principles aren't really that good, then you will realize that, okay, the actions that you might be taking may not be adequate for your purpose. So characteristics. Okay, we'll talk about two aspects of the characteristics of an effective principle. So we'll talk about form. So that's the first aspect. Now, the form of an effective principle is that it's clear, it's concise, and stated in the present tense. Okay, this is important. Okay, it's not stated in the past tense because it's already done. So there's really nothing more to be done. It's past. It's not stated in the future tense, meaning it's something aspirational, it's something that you intend to do, yes. But by stating it in the present tense, it gives that sense of clarity and urgency that, okay, this is what's important to the organization right now. This should happen now. So it's important that you state it in the present tense. And the other item here is that it's memorable. Okay, what do we mean by memorable? So here are some guidelines. It uses wordings that is uncomplicated and easily understood. Okay, memorable. So it's easy to memorize. Number one. Okay, it's something that, okay, if I forget, I just have some keywords, then I already know what my principle is in totality. Okay, it may have a word or a short phrase as an identifier. Okay, so by memorable, it doesn't really mean something that really impacts you emotionally or psychologically. Well, it could happen that way. Okay, but by memorable, from a form perspective, it simply means that it's easy to read. It's something that people can recall. It's not a very sophisticated or complex term, you know. So that's why in principles, you try to avoid terms that are highfalutin, that are super technical, that only very specific people would know. Okay. And based on the earlier point, clear, concise, and stated in the present tense, it has to be a simple sentence as much as possible. You don't really need to have a lot of elements on those sentence. Okay, and there. Okay, so but that's the form. Now, when we go to the next aspect, which is the content, here are the guidelines for an effective principle. First, it has to be constructive. When we say constructive, the 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 principle should likely to result in many right decisions if followed. In other words, it's like your bedrock for all the decisions that you'll be doing. So, typical of a principle, like if it's like a value that really holds that you really hold dear, right? And that's why we call people that really hold their values as important. We call them principled people, right? So that's the idea of principles. They become the basis for all the decisions that will be done in relation to that particular perspective. Okay. And as I said earlier about decisions, it helps make decisions and trade-offs. So definitely, when you decide one thing, you are automatically deciding not to take the other alternatives. So that's the trade-off there. So you're clear that if this is to be preferred, then everything else is not preferred. Okay, and that's possible. Trade-offs do happen in real life. Okay, and you have to be conscious about making those decisions. Okay, and being constructive, it provides progress towards future solutions. So there's that sense of, well, it helps in having some clarity, but the clarity there is helped by the fact that it's really something concrete. Okay, it's something that will really build up towards a feasible or a tangible outcome. And it should answer the question, can an alternative statement be somebody else's valid principle? So that's something that you want to think about, right? I mean, can an alternative statement be somebody else's valid principle? Okay. If the answer to this question is yes, then okay. On your end, that's a constructive principle. And it should be specific enough to drive behavior, okay, in relation to actions. Now, so if the principle is vague, so the opposite of constructive is vague, right? You're or passive. It doesn't really tell you what you should be doing, right? Then it won't lead you to specific actions, okay, that would help drive behavior and affect progress or change. The other characteristic in terms of content is that it's compelling, it's persuasive, it's exciting, okay. It's strongly motivated by drivers' goals and other principles. Okay, and it crystallizes some key insights. It's not trivial. It's not obvious. Okay, like for example, in effective for an effective principle, you shouldn't phrase your principle like um, the company should be profitable. Okay, well, it's compelling, maybe, okay, but it's trivial. It's obvious. Of course, companies need to be profitable. Okay? But what could be compelling would be the company is profitable by 10% more than the market. Okay. Okay, maybe that seems to be a better principle. Okay. And last characteristic is that it's testable. You can test it. You can try it out. You can tell if the principle is being practiced. Okay, so it's not abstract. Okay, uh, in effect, you can look at the first and third points as something that's concrete. Okay, an effective principle has to be concrete, right? It should really lead you to certain outcomes. Okay, and it's something that you can verify, and it's verifiable, objectively speaking. Now, question: are these effective principles? Okay, number one, our systems are easy to use, reliable, and secure. Okay, it's imprecise. It needs further definition. Okay. For example, easy to use. There are many subparameters on easy to use. Reliable, same thing. Secure, another thing. Um, when you say easy to use by whom? Okay. So, okay. But is it a wrong principle? Maybe not. I mean, it's a principle, okay, but it's imprecise. You probably need to check. Okay, what you can do is you can take a look at the guidelines we said earlier. So in terms of form, is it clear? Is it concise? Is it in the present tense? Okay, check. Is it memorable? Okay, it's easy to memorize. What about the content? Is it compelling? Uh, okay, maybe it seems to be compelling to some degree. Okay, is it constructive? Okay, so that's where it becomes flimsy. You don't really know how it's going to work. Okay, okay, is it testable? Okay, I mean that's also another missing item. Okay, next principle: we provide online order tracking through the web. What do you think? Well, this is a good principle. Okay, let's look at form. Okay, clear, concise, present tense. Okay, is it memorable? Okay. Keywords here would be online order tracking, web. Okay. What about content? Is it compelling? Okay. Okay. Go using the web, online ordering tracking. Okay. Okay. Is it constructive? Okay. Does it give you an idea on what should be done? Okay. Maybe. Okay. So in a way, that's a good principle. What about this? Response times must be less than 10 seconds. Is that an effective principle? Well, in this case, doesn't seem to be a principle. It's a standard. Okay. It's related to predictable responsiveness. It's not a principle. Why isn't it a principle? Um, Well, there from the concept of okay, if we look about the we look at the form, okay, then you can argue, well, it's not in the present tense, okay, it's an imperative. And then when you look at the content, is it compelling? Is it constructive? Okay, doesn't really tell much. It's not constructive. It you know that the response time has to be less than 10 seconds, but it doesn't tell you, okay, how that's going to happen. But you know, okay, it has to be a standard. Okay, okay, give our customers what they want. Okay, here's our next principle. Is this a standard? In this case, well, okay. Obviously, there's a lot of question marks here. Okay, so it's vague, meaningless. I mean, it's business, really. I mean, you know that. Okay, it's obvious, right? It's trivial. It's not really compelling. And you know that you have to give customers what they want. Okay, to some reasonable degree, definitely. Increase market share by 5% within 18 months. Is that an effective principle? Is that a good principle? Okay, well, again, similar perhaps to the third example, doesn't really tell us much. Okay, so it lacks a little bit of constructiveness. The testability, okay, maybe you can test it, okay, but doesn't really give you an idea how you can do it. Okay, it's really more of a goal. Okay, now how do we improve principles? Uh, at the level of principle, you ask, is it true today? Now, when you say it's true today, it's possible that it's not yet achieved by the company itself. Okay, so what you want to do is, okay, you have to make sure that it's realistic. Okay, um, principles are something like um, okay, principles are like it's a balance between what is real right now versus something that we want to aspire towards too. Okay, but the thing here is that you watch out for words and even challenge them, like simple, easy, fast, almost. Okay, in the first bullet point, there's vagueness there. Similarly, here in the next 2 points, now, when appropriate, whenever possible. Well, you have to flesh that out. What do you mean by whenever appropriate? What do you mean by whenever possible? So you have to flesh that out even further. Okay, or ensure. Well, when you say ensure, it means that it's not yet happening now. Okay, or it's more of a demand or a driver. It's not really a principle, right? Okay, okay, so let's work with some examples. Okay, because of time to market and ease of support, we will use commercial off-the-shelf solutions where appropriate. Okay, anyone would like to give it a try? Sige, let me call on, sige, si Alicia. Would you want to try it? Or Bill, I think you were about to say something.
Sir, what am I supposed to do? Improve it or
Yeah, improve it. Yep.
because of time to market? Oh, wait, sir. I'll think about it first.
Okay. Okay, but don't look at the PowerPoint slide that I've uploaded already, okay? Or sige, who else would like to give it a try? Try lang naman. No harm in making an attempt. Sige, well, let's say, sige, Ashley, would you like to give it a try?
Wait po, sir. We're having sipon right now. Teka lang po, sir.
Ala,
Chico.
sipon.
Yan.
Sige lang. I mean, just
Wait po,
try to don't
sige po, sir.
stress your voice too much. Or maybe let's start first. What do you think is the problem with this principle? Maybe let's start with that. I mean, what do you think is a little bit uneasy with this principle? Can anyone share? Ano yung nakita nyo? Okay, think about the form of the principle. What did we say about the form? Stephen,
I'll try. Is it because it's vague?
why is it vague? Why do you think it's vague?
Because I don't know what COTS solutions are.
Well, I mentioned it as I was saying it. It's commercial off the shelf. So packaged products that you just buy.
Oh, okay. Uh, is it because it's not specific? Like it says where appropriate?
Okay, correct. That's one. We just said that a while ago. Some the watch out phrases, right, were appropriate. Okay, good. Okay, anybody else? What's the difficult points in this principle? What uh, okay, you need more opinion about it. Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. What do you think this principle, or what view does this principle belong to? Is it a business principle? Is it a technical principle? Is it an implementation principle? Is it a functional principle? What do you think? So more likely than not, this is an implementation principle because it tells you that you're going to use a packaged solution, right? That you'll use a commercial off-the-shelf solution. Okay, but sige, I mean, Stephen is correct in the vagueness, okay, the use of where appropriate. What else? What about the form? Do you notice anything about the form? What did we say about the form of an effective principle?
Sir, is it should we change the like? Is it because of the time to market and ease of support? Is
Mm,
that what's wrong with the statement also, or no?
well, it could be that because that is a what? Is that a principle or is that something else? That's a
Uh,
rationale, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
pwedeng ganun. Okay. Because you place the rational with the principle, it made the principle long. Okay, so it's not concise. Okay? You're starting to appreciate it. What else? What other things can you find in this principle?
Sir, it doesn't sound very compelling or persuasive.
Okay. Okay, yeah. Well, why do you think it's not compelling?
It sounds kind of like negative that they're implementing this solution because of said reasons.
Mm-hmm. Sige. I mean, you can also look at it because it's not compelling because of the phrase where appropriate, right? I mean, so it's like giving you like a hanging situation. Okay, where appropriate. Okay, so it's not really compelling that, oh, I need to do this because of this or that, right? Right. What else? Hello. One more. Okay, the hint is it's in the form. So what did we say about the form? Okay. Do you recall what we said about the form? Is it memorable? So do you think the words are memorable?
Sir, to me, it's more of a reaction to something.
Uh-huh. Okay, okay, good.
Like it's not the base of, you know, whatever we were trying to
Okay.
uh
Sige. Oh, what else? Is it clear? Is it concise? Like we said earlier, it could still be simplified, right? Because of the rational. But is it written in the present tense? Yes or no?
No.
No. Okay. So that's another defect of this principle. It's not written in present tense. Okay. So it says will. So remember the guide question that we ask ourselves at principle: is it true today? Now, right? Is it true today? So it's not. I mean, it says we will use. Okay. So okay. So that's ahead. Okay. So now you see the defect. So let's see an example of a revised principle. Okay. So we favor commercial off-the-shelf solutions wherever possible. Any exceptions must be supported by a formal business case. Now, you can argue that even the revised principle can still be improved. Okay? Why? Why do you think the revised principle can still be improved? Anyone? Okay. Okay, it's long. Okay. Yeah, you can still shorten it. Really, right? Okay. You can say we favor COTS solution uh, and exceptions. Or you say and exceptions are supported by a formal business or you can actually remove the wherever possible, right? You can say that okay, we favor COTS solution. Exceptions, any exceptions must be. I mean, even the must be. But so you can say that exceptions are supported by a formal business case. Uh, okay. So, okay, let's go to another principle. Okay, ito. All data in our systems will be adequately protected. Okay, go. What's the problem here?
it's in future tense.
Okay, very good. Oh, yeah, so you're catching it now. Okay, good. Oh, what else? What else? What do you
So
think is
it
this
would
principle? Is this a business principle? Is this a functional principle? Is this a technical or an implementation principle? What do you guys think?
technical.
Okay, so it's a technical principle. Okay. So all data in our systems will be adequately protected. Okay, so you've mentioned the form, it's not in present tense. What else? Is it memorable? I mean,
Oh,
it's easy to memorize, right? Okay. I mean, you can probably argue that way. Kasi you're about to
sir,
say something weird.
I think it should be, you know, in the present tense, so it would be much more memorable. Because if
Okay.
you put will, it's like if you put will, it's like you're just gonna do it. It's
Mm-hmm.
like you didn't do it before.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. That's and that's the reason why you want to do it in present tense because it gives that compelling nature, right? Okay. What about is it constructive? Do you think it's constructive?
So it's not specific enough.
Okay. Why? Why do you think it's not specific enough?
It doesn't mention what kind of um system there used to be to protect the data or something that
Okay.
sort.
It doesn't really tell you much some ideas. Okay. So the thing there is that it's vague because of the adequately. What do you really mean by adequately protected, right? We can challenge that. So it doesn't really give uh, uh, a constructive feel to it. No, it doesn't really. It's not concrete in any case. It's not even testable, right? I mean, how do you go? Okay, so let's see. What's the revised principle here? There, we have multiple levels of security and access to data based on predefined types of data and types of users. All right. Is this clearer? Is this principle better than the previous principle? What do you think? Okay. I mean, you can argue that, yeah, it's better because protection is now elaborated in terms of levels of security and access. Okay. Based on the cuts of the types of data and the types of users. So now you're able to specify what do we mean by adequately protected, right? What else is vague here? Actually, what's vague here is all data, everything, really. Okay, but what would make it a little bit better is that if you say all data, this phrasing of the revised principle considers all data as well. So if you say all data, that's something for you to watch out as well, right? It was said earlier, all. You have to watch out the use of these certain words, all, okay, ensure, and so on and so forth. Okay, training is a key part of our implementation planning. Is this a good principle or can we improve on it? Sige, anyone?
I think it needs to be more specific on
Okay.
what kind of training.
Okay. Good. Okay, what else? Okay, so let's look at the form. So is it clear, concise, present tense? Okay, yes. Okay. Is it memorable? I mean, it's easy to recall. Okay. What about content? Is it constructive? Okay. What do you think? Okay, it should specify what part. Okay, pwede. Should specify what part in the implementation planning that it's tackling, okay? Or what makes it crucial, or what makes it key. Okay. Yeah, we can still unpack that idea of what do you mean by key part, right? Is it compelling? Or is it testable? Okay, so now you see the difficulty there. When you look at testable, you look at compelling, you look at constructive, then you start to see, okay, I mean, we can still improve on this. Okay, so here's a revised principle. Training is planned and targeted, and its effectiveness is measured both initially and post implementation. Okay, so the key part is now unpacked, meaning training is now planned and targeted. Okay, so that's what's meant by key part. And its effectiveness is measured both initially and post implementation. So now you're given an idea on how it is measured, how you can determine training to be effective. But even this, you can also still revise the principle, right? I mean, you can still improve on it. Um, and the key idea is that even if we're improving principles, you're never going to gravitate towards a perfect principle or perfect articulation of the principle. But what's important is the principle, okay, if they have these characteristics, right, in terms of form, in terms of content, then you can be sure that that principle is effective enough for you as an architect and everybody else in the company can really bring it forward, can make sure that it would be true. So now let's go at improving the other attributes of a principle: the rationale, the implication, and the obstacles. Okay, for effective rationals, you take a look at these characteristics. Okay, a rationale would always link back explicitly to the driver's goals and previous principles. It should be clear where they are the basis for that principle, okay, to form part of the rationale. It should capture why the principle is good or valid in business terms. Okay. And it should answer the question, does it give a competitive advantage or differentiation? Okay. And it should express the cost or impact of not doing it. Okay. Maybe, okay, you can include it, okay. Um, but the cost or impact, sometimes you can include it in the implications, not really about the rationale, right? For effective implications, what are the characteristics? Well, you check for process, people, and IT implications, not just IT. Okay, so have a holistic perspective of the implications. Okay, and it should answer the question: do they address simplification, standardization, modularity, and integration? It should also be able to answer what must the PM plan to implement the principle and make it operational. It should be able to answer this question because it's an implication. It means that if the implication is done, then the principle is true, which is precisely the point of the last question. If all of the implications are done, will the principle then be true? Okay. And lastly, what are the characteristics of effective obstacles? Okay, so at least your articulation of effective obstacles. Well, uh, barriers, roadblocks. Okay, does it answer that question? Does it answer what are the barriers? What are the roadblocks? Does it answer the question what will make it difficult to implement? Okay, the principle. So it's clear. It's clearly an obstacle, right? In all of these points, right, the principle and the rational implications and obstacles, uh, one guideline that you can probably notice with all of these points is that you want to make sure that the articulation of the statement is clear, that it's not vague, that it gives you an idea of what is needed to be done, what should happen to be done. Okay, I mean, there's that level of clarity, there's that level of concreteness, if you may, right? If you have this feeling that it's not concrete, that it's not very clear, okay, or it's not really constructive or compelling, then you know that it's not an effective statement. Okay. And even from the term effective, no, the term effective means that you want it to have an effect. Okay. You know that from this statement, there should be an effect. And that's what's meant by effective, right? So if the statement doesn't lead you to do something else after that, then it's not effective. Okay, so that's at least the a quick guideline. Okay, but of course the questions that we've listed here that we've discussed here are good specifications for you to really determine further on effectiveness in these statements. So just as a reminder, okay, for effective principles, we go back to the start. Okay, the form of an effective principle is that it's clear, concise, and stated in the present tense. Okay, and it is memorable. So something for you, you can put it to memory. It's easy to recall. And the content of an effective principle is constructive, compelling, and testable. Okay. And with that, I end my quick commentary on how to improve your existing principles. Are there any questions regarding today's commentary, today's lecture?
Sir, I have a question.
Yes, Alicia.
So, like, now that we know what a proper principle is, are we expected to change the principles we made prior to this lecture?
Yeah.
Oh, all right then.
But don't edit your principles directly. Make sure you just reply to your own post so that you can see the difference, right? And we can use that as material for discussion in our class. Okay, so don't edit your principles. Okay, if you already placed it there, don't edit it. For in the case of Stephen and Ashley, make sure you place all your initial principles there. Okay, and then we'll find a way to improve on it. Okay.
So, sir, can we change it like completely? Like a
Yeah,
different sense, in a different topic, rather?
yeah. You can, well, I well, you could if you want to, but of course, I mean, like I said, principles are rarely perfect off the bat, right? So the exercise, the point of the task is put your principles first based on the original idea that you've had at the
Mm-hmm.
start, uh, and then later on we'll look back and we'll make improvements of it. Okay,
Okay, sure.
but the instrument that we will use on how to improve on it, we'll talk about it later. Okay.
All right, sir.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
sige. But before we go into the specific requirements and all that, do you have any questions regarding the topic itself? Okay. Okay. If there's none, kasi I can stop recording it.